Hey y'all, welcome to the Throttle podcast. I'm your host, Earnest, here today with my co-host, Evan Sager.
Hello, y'all.
Got the big NASCAR lawsuit going on with trial today. It could totally just change the sport and just the whole American motorsports landscape forever, and we're here to talk about it tonight. So, to kind of start way back from the beginning to catch y'all up to speed, way back in early October of last year, Jeffrey Kessler, who's the lawyer that represents 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports as the plaintiffs in this case, they filed an antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR and Jim France, who are represented by Chris Yates as the defendants, and this is in federal court in Western North Carolina. The teams have claimed against NASCAR that the way they run the sport is a monopoly, and that it's unfair to the teams since they do not get a significant chunk of the revenue per year. The two teams, therefore, didn't sign the charter agreement that was due right before the start of the 2024 NASCAR playoffs, and the other 13 teams did, but some of them were hesitant to sign that charter agreement, as we'll hear about in a minute. Charters are basically NASCAR's version of a franchise that you would see in the NFL or the MLB, and the majority of the revenue per year goes to NASCAR and to the tracks, but a majority of the tracks are owned by NASCAR to begin with after they acquired the International Speedway Corporation, or ISC, back in 2019. So after preliminary injunctions and the discovery stage occurred over the course of the end of last year and through the bulk of this year, we've now reached trial in this case, which is presided over by Judge Kenneth D. Bell. This trial began back on Monday, and as of the recording of this episode, has concluded its fifth day, its first full week of this trial. But now getting into the trial with its first day, they had their opening arguments.
Yeah, so the first day of opening arguments wasn't too anything special. They both had their good points of, for one, how 2311 and FRM, their lawyers trying to explain how NASCAR is doing a monopoly on the whole entire system with the charter agreement and stuff like that. Then NASCAR's argument of the charter agreement was it's supposed to be fair for every team, and then Kenneth D. Bell was kind of had enough of it, and end of day one early, and then we get into day two. That's when we start getting witnesses on the stand. For number one, Hamlin. Hamlin got on the stand Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and he started explaining his side of the story of how, for one, how NASCAR changed his life and how it changed his father's life, and it just brought tears to his own eyes to realize of what NASCAR is doing for the whole entire series, I should say, and how they're just trying to profit off any little team, no matter big or small. For example, some of the even teams were reluctant to even sign the charter agreement back in the 24 season. So a lot of people realized what they were doing. They just did it so they can please NASCAR, but 2311 FRM took a stand. And then day two concluded, and then into late day two night, we found out some really interesting evidence from text messages from Steve O'Donnell to the NASCAR executive of Richard Childress, saying not very nice things to RC, and RC started talking against that. So he will be on trial on the witness stand next Tuesday, I believe, and he'll explain his side of the story from what was said in those text messages. We don't know all the details in the text messages. Some of it was redacted, but we'll find out the full thing when he gets on the stand come Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Bob Jenkins got on the stand, and then he started explaining of how they lost money every single year since the charter system started back in 2016. And he was losing up to, $8 million a year, roughly? Or no, probably more than that. It was like $14 million a couple of years, 16 a couple of years. And some of the races this season, they had to go without sponsors. They had to go with their own team brand, which is like Long John Silver's and stuff like that.
Because Bob Jenkins owns good portions of companies like Long John Silver's, A&W,
right,
Taco Bell.
So he's using his own sponsored money to sponsor his cars. So FRM is not in a really good space right now, and they're just trying to capitalize on what 2311 and their lawyers are talking about of how NASCAR is becoming a monopoly and not sharing the revenue with the teams that they deserve.
And NASCAR, for its almost 80-year history at this point has been owned and operated by the France family. Big Bill France Sr., Bill France Jr., even Brian France, and now Jim France. They've all kind of held it with its sort of iron fist mentality of, this is how things are going to go and we're not going to budge. But this has been probably one of the biggest, I guess, do I want to call it detriments? More like challenges to their way of operation. I mean, you think of this lawsuit, it's up there with, like, back when Winston had to leave his title sponsor and, like, NASCAR and the AT&T dispute in, like, 2007. It's up there. It's possibly even overtopping it. I mean, this lawsuit could be one of the biggest detriments to American motorsports as we know it.
I would say this is the top moment for NASCAR. If they don't win this, a lot of things could fall bad for the France family. So
even without this lawsuit, it's already not been looking great over the last 20 years. You have F1 with their expanded presence into America, plus the F1 movie, which is top 10 both worldwide and domestically in the box office. And they have a whole line of Hot Wheels toys with all the F1 diecast. They have a bunch of Lego diecast. They market to kids, and they market really well. And, I mean, IndyCar has all their races on Fox, which is the only major motorsports, basically, league in America that has all their races broadcast on main television, except for the now newly renamed O'Reilly Auto Parts series, which has every race on CW. And then, I mean, even NHRA at times, you had, I guess it was an NFL lead-in, but they still outdid NASCAR with NHRA when they ran at, I think it was Texas, for the Texas Fall Nationals. They got like 2 million viewers for that. So there's a lot of pressure on just other American motorsport leagues they might end up overtaking NASCAR. We could see by, year one of the next media rights deal, which would end up being 2032, we could see a whole different landscape, and that's not even factoring in the impacts of this lawsuit that it could bring. I mean, it's either NASCAR is going to have to change their way of operation that they've ran for almost 80 years, or Michael Jordan and 2311 and maybe even Front Row will end up going out of business and leaving the sport of NASCAR racing. And even then, it'll completely change NASCAR, how we view it now, because, like, that's 6 charters, or at least 6 cars in the field that won't be there.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, I mean, who's going to pick up those charters? For one, I mean, what new team is coming to NASCAR with that much sponsorship money to buy a charter and be competitive? I mean, 2311, they had the Jordan brand, sure, and then all the sponsorships when Bubba came over, like Columbia, McDonald's, and stuff like that, and Monster with Reddick. So, I mean... And
Chumba Casino with all 3 of their sponsored cars. But, I mean, charters in general have just skyrocketed. I mean, they're like $50-60 million.
Yeah,
it costs a ton of sponsorship money and investment, and even just a lot of money to upkeep the next gen car, because these are single source parts. And like Bob Jenkins, when he testified on the stand, like, he said it costs like $30,000 after every race to take a non-damaged car back to the supplier, because those are single source parts, and if you modify those, you get hit with a huge penalty and a huge fine.
Exactly. So I mean NASCAR is trying to monopolize it. I mean, also one thing that Bob Jenkins also said was that back when they started the next gen car, it would have been $250,000 per one race car. With all inflation and tariffs, it's now up to, I think it's $350,000. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's roughly in that $350,000 range now for NASCAR for one car to be on the track. So, I mean, you also got to take that by times 3, because they're racing deals. I mean, that's a lot of money for a race. It's not including all the pit road stuff, tires, fuel, just the setup in general for the drivers and pit crew. So, I mean, Bob Jenkins is putting a lot of money on the line, and he's not gaining anything. He's ever since he got in the sport, he's always lost money every single year. So it's good for him to fight this because he's always lost money. He's been a big supporter of NASCAR. I mean, he sponsors his own races when he can and when he has to. So I don't know. I'm on the FRM train with this in 2311. 2311 is a little different because they have a lot more sponsorship and a lot more characteristics
and notoriety with Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
And Denny Hamlin co-owning the operation.
Also, speaking of Denny Hamlin, he's also making $14 million a year from a salary from Joe Gibbs Racing, which I find crazy.
Yeah. And even, like, to piggyback off of that, there's, Joe Gibbs, with Joe Gibbs Racing, he didn't want to sign the charter agreement either, but, I mean, NASCAR kind of forced him in with his hands tied. I mean, even the big teams, the teams that have been around for decades now, and the teams that we look up to as the gold standard for stock car auto racing, who typically wins the most races, who's typically the most successful, like, top to bottom, whether you look at JGR or FRM, like, it's...
Yeah, no matter what you do, it's just...
No matter how you look at it, it's an ugly deal.
Yeah.
It's a very ugly situation with money going around and...
Yeah, not a good situation at all for anyone. No matter whose side you're on. No matter win or lose, it's not a good look for NASCAR.
Yeah, and that's what Mark Martin said, too. I mean, no matter how this ends up, it's not going to look good. And
Exactly.
it could just further detriment NASCAR to even, I don't want to say unattainable lows that we didn't thought were possible, but they're very possible at this rate.
Exactly.
So, who knows what's going to happen with the rest of this trial. Who knows what's going to happen next week when Richard Childress takes the stand, and do we know who else is taking the stand?
I think a couple more NASCAR executives.
Okay.
And I believe... I'm trying to think who else. I think possibly Joe Gibbs. I could be wrong. I think Joe Gibbs is going. We know RC is. I don't know if...
Is Hendrick going?
That's the thing. I was like, I'm not sure on Hendrick, but also I'm not sure on Petty Motorsports either. I'm not sure how they're weighing in on this.
Yeah. I mean, and they just got, and Legacy Motor Club just got done with their own separate lawsuit.
Speaking of Rickwell Racing, I think they take the stand next Thursday.
Okay.
And I think they're supposed to start deliberation on Friday. And then we'll probably have an answer by that Monday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did talk about the trial could go farther than the end of next week. So
or we could just have a mistrial and call it a whip. And
by the time they figure out this trial ends, you know what they're going to do. Whoever ends, they can still technically settle.
Right.
But the chances of that are, basically 0 to 9.
0.1%.
That ship is pretty much sailed at this point.
Literally.
So, but whoever ends up losing this is probably going to appeal, and we're going to have appeals and appeals and appeals. I'm willing to bet there's probably a 70% chance that this still lingers on to basically speed weeks.
Yeah, honestly, I want to say this will continue to the start of next season, considering if they'll continue to appeal no matter who wins or loses the trial.
Yeah.
So this could go on for a long time.
They're just going to appeal and appeal and appeal until somebody says, no, you're not appealing.
Yeah, it's going to be a long, hard-fought battle between each manufacturer and NASCAR.
And even just factoring outside of the lawsuit, enough people already aren't happy about the lawsuit. We still have to figure out what the hell we're doing with the points format.
Yeah,
what are we gonna do with that?
I don't know if they're waiting until after the trial's done to release that or what. I don't know.
I think NASCAR is. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I think NASCAR is gonna say that they're using this lawsuit as a distraction to where it eventually gets to the point where they just keep the same system.
Yeah, and they'll be like, oh,
for at least another year.
I'll be like, oh, we didn't have enough time because of the trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they do that, which would be really fucked up, be really stupid, and it'll piss off a lot more NASCAR fans.
I mean, most casual fans, like, the problem is that most casual fans, like, don't have the... They almost don't have the heart to care enough because NASCAR wasn't appealing enough to fully pull them in. And then, like, us core fans, like me and you, we're just shaking. We're just getting battered and beaten up with,
what's gonna
terrible
happen
points formats and how the championship weekend ended, and now this lawsuit that has been going on for over a year now and is going to keep going and going and going and going. It is just insane.
It's a bad deal for everyone, for the casuals to the hardcore people. It's just not a good look.
The only people that are winning this is the lawyers.
The lawyers and other motorsports like Formula One and IndyCar.
Formula One and IndyCar and even a little bit of NHRA, they are just waiting. They're just waiting like sharks in the water, with blood in the water, just waiting to capitalize. And I mean, whoever's on the hook in this trial is going to end up paying like over $100 million in legal fees.
Yeah.
This is, man.
But, I mean, that's pretty much the basis of the trial so far. There hasn't really been any bombshell breaking news besides the RC stuff, which I thought was very interesting. And then also the Bob Jenkins stuff about how he always loses money, with the new charter system. So, that could be said for a lot of teams. They just haven't reported it because they just don't want to fight it. So, I think that's all we got for the trial episode so far.
Trial episode part 1, as we have discovered.
Probably part 1 of 4.
I don't know if I go that far just yet, but it's definitely going to be recurring. We've had our own little discovery stage of, hey, this
just came out, and like, uh-oh.
Yeah, this trial's going to be a minute.
Yeah.
This lawsuit's been going on for over a year. I've wrote like 2 web stories on it. It's funny because we look back at my old web story, which I published in like the middle of November last year, so it's been over a year. And this was back when Evan was a senior at my high school. He's of course since graduated, and I interviewed him about that, and he's just like, oh, I think NASCAR's got the slight edge, and we'll see what happens at 2311. And boy, have we changed so dramatically over the last
year,
13 months, basically.
Pretty much a year and a month. Because I think it was November last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was November last year. That's when I published it. It was right after championship weekend last year.
Yeah, a lot has changed in the sport, and some for the good, some for the worse. So,
some for the good, a lot for the worse. I'd say that.
Yeah.
And the new TV deal was not. Prime was really, really, really good, and NBC was like, all right, but Fox and TNT were just like,
it's Fox. What can you do?
But it's a cable-heavy TV deal, and like, obviously you have to have some cable, but you've seen the success of like IndyCar when they had all the races on Fox, and they had some of the biggest growth that they've seen. They had the largest TV audience for the Indy 500 in 17 years.
Yeah.
Literally my entire lifetime. So, yeah. It's an ugly, ugly deal that is going to have to get figured out in the weeks and months ahead. We'll see how long it lasts. I'm sure we'll look back in late January, right before the Clash, and I'm sure we'll still be talking about this. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I think we know there's going to be a lot of change. Mm-hmm. That's about it. But it's either 2311 and Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. They're going to, and front row too.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to walk out and leave the sport, or NASCAR is going to have to change the way they do their business model. And with all those legal fees, they're probably going to have to sell some of the tracks they own, because they own pretty much all the tracks on the schedule except for Pocono and Indy.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. is Pocono and Indy, because Indy's owned by Roger Penske, and Pocono is third party, and Dover used to be that way, and Nashville used to be that way, but they both got bought out by SMI. So does that mean SMI takes more tracks?
I don't know, honestly.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't know. It's gonna be a while before we get there. This ain't no I-74 bridge that you cross over in 20 seconds. This is like a bridge that was magically built from the U.S. to Europe. It's gonna take a minute.
Yeah.
But that's all we got for this week's episode of the Throttle Floor podcast. Listen and download on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Check out the Chill Photography and Throttle Floor podcast Instagrams. I'm working on the TikToks for those as well. And that's all we got for this week's episode. Tune in next week for more lawsuit talk. We'll see what Richard Childers says. Hold on to your wristwatches, people.
Hold on to your hats, people. Have a good night, y'all.